Well, all right. Hello, everybody. As always, I'm Brad, that's Mike, we're Dallas Geek, and we are your source for all of the latest nerdy news and geek culture.
Sporting a masturbation injury there, Brad? Can I say that on YouTube? I mean, I did.
YouTube? Yeah, technically.
Okay.
Facebook?
I mean, Mark Zuckerberg basically uses it as public masturbation every day of his life, so what's it matter?
I don't know if the lizard people believe in that thing.
Touche. I mean, they probably reproduce asexually, so.
No, they're lizards. They're reptiles. Eggs.
Oh, yeah, eggs. Yeah, that's fair.
But thank you all for joining us today. It's been a minute since we've gone live, holidays and whatnot, but we are back and at it.
Going to hell. Oh, I just thought of a segue for masturbation in our topic today, and that is just wrong on so many levels. Anyway.
And with that, thank you so much for joining us. If this is your first time checking us out,
we're sorry.
Should be a decent one, actually.
Yeah, actually.
A lot of speculation, but who isn't speculating right now? Speaking of speculation, what are we talking about, Mike?
Well, thanks for that segue, Brad. So, apparently there was a shakeup at Disney recently.
No.
So I've heard.
You don't say.
Yeah, apparently the guy that was brought in to replace the guy as CEO that was there for 15 years screwed up so bad that they went back to that same guy. After less than, 2 years? What we figured out was, 18 months, 20 months, something like that? Yeah.
Which is funny, considering the thing he screwed up the most was the thing he had been previously in charge of, the parks.
Right. But yes, Bob Chapek, I think. Chapek, your ass is out. Bob Iger's back.
And for
Cue AC/DC's.
And just to go ahead and cut off all the Iger fanboys out there right now, anybody that looks at this situation and says, "Yes, finally, Iger's back. We're gonna right the ship." You weren't actually paying that close of attention during Iger's original tenure, were you? Because
there was some good. There was
plenty of good, but at the same time, we even made more than a few videos bitching about Bob Iger.
So did Matt Stone and Trey Parker.
Well, yeah. And Kevin Smith. And so many more. Yeah. Look, Bob Iger, by comparison, is a better choice. Should Bob Iger be
by
there
comparison,
today?
No. You or I are a better choice by comparison.
Yeah, I mean, should Bob Iger be back at Disney today? No. But a lot of that comes down to just apparently some very poor planning on Disney's part about replacing Iger with somebody who understood the vision that was being left to them.
Yeah, when you have to bring back the guy because your bench is so empty that you oust your CEO and there's literally nobody that you feel can step in and take over immediately, that's not really saying that your company's in a good position.
Not so much, no. And look, I'm not going to knock what Iger was able to accomplish for Disney the first time, because Iger is the entire reason why we have Disney Plus.
Right.
And Disney Plus is the entire reason why I personally think streaming media has a chance of actually becoming a successful thing, either in place of or in addition to movie theaters. I think it has a legitimate chance. I definitely think it's going to overtake cable television. And I think Disney Plus is a massive part of that.
Is cable television still a thing?
Oddly. Yeah.
Okay.
Some people do watch HBO and not have that be Max.
Why? They don't show... You know what? Never mind.
But yeah, no, look, Disney had a lot happen under Iger's original tenure from 2005 until 2020. There was a lot of good, a decent amount of bad, and generally a lot of frustration.
No world-halting pandemics.
And
point for Iger.
I will say, does a little part of me wonder what Chapek's run would have been like as CEO if 2020 hadn't happened? Kind of, honestly, because while I do not agree with Bob Chapek's business acumen as far as understanding the total company of Disney and all the different divisions and how to make all that work at such a high level, he does understand business. It's in a very by the numbers way, but he understands business.
Right.
And I think a CEO like him works fantastically as a peacetime CEO. But you have a global pandemic and one, maybe about to be two, financial crashes coming, and that requires a wartime CEO to be able to withstand the storm and bring the company back to some semblance of normal. And Chapek was not that person.
I mean, there's a reason why Winston Churchill was brought back after he was ousted by the Brits. Yeah, 95% of London's on fire. Let's maybe get the guy that can handle this. It's kind of what you're seeing right now. Chapek, like you said, he was a parks guy. He wanted to come in and revamp the parks and make the parks profitable again and make the parks kind of the, the shining beacon of what was the Disney experience.
Yeah, which to a certain extent I see what he was going for with that, with the things he actually accomplished, but
yeah, I mean, I find it funny that a lot of the things that he put into place seem like they felt counterintuitive to what he was trying to do.
Well, like for example,
park level.
Like for example, I think everybody at this point has heard about the Genie Plus debacle with the increased prices for services that you were trying to get. We're trying to revamp the way like the whole reservation and fast pass system worked, increasing the ticket cost for a day's visit, trying to limit park hopping, trying to
getting rid of the food passes, getting rid of the wristbands.
Well, not getting rid of the wristband, charging for it rather than including it as part of the package.
Like it almost seemed like everything that he did was in design of trying to create a less fun experience for people that actually went to a Disney park.
And from a certain perspective, I can see how if we never had the economic crash,
right,
maybe he wouldn't have made all of the same choices he did as far as trying to monetize everything that he did, because it does seem like a lot of the price changes that he made were in direct response to the amount of money the parks were losing from being closed or coming back at reduced capacity.
Thanks, California.
I get it.
Yep.
Oh, I mean, the zombie apocalypse kind of has something to do with that too.
Zombies? I don't remember no zombies.
Have you watched Fox News lately?
Well, that's just because all their anchors are old.
It's fair. And Mitch McConnell does make a frequent appearance on there, and how do you know he's not one of the Walking Dead?
Oh, way too much skin and fat underneath the neck. The jowls are way too full.
No.
That shit would have been decayed and bone by now.
That's just proof that he's wearing a skin suit. He's a zombie wearing a skin suit trying to get past as a person. But enough to talk about Frogman.
That's being generous.
No, I mean, I think a lot of that really was coming back to trying to recoup costs for the parks, which they did lose. They lost a lot, and they had furlough employees, and it was not good. I get that. I think it seems like if that hadn't happened, some of those changes would have still gone into play, but maybe not to the extreme that they did. And I think the public in general would have been a little bit more willing to accept those additional costs as, well, it's just another premium on the experience of going to a Disney park because it's Disney.
Right.
And I don't know, I think a lot of our perspectives on available spending money has become significantly changed recently, and what we all consider to be reasonable cost for entertainment has
what you mean with
shifted.
You mean with gas nationally hitting almost $7 and milk almost costing $4 a gallon and inflation? No, I can't say that word on YouTube.
No, there are certain
ing.
There are definitely some limitations.
But no, look, I think you're right to a sense of what would that tenure have looked like. But I think history is full of what ifs. What does a George Bush presidency look like if not for 9/11? Does Donald Trump get reelected if not for COVID? Not to stray politically, but those are the first two things that immediately come to mind because those were life-altering world events that changed the entire course of recorded history.
Oh yeah, no, I mean
this is kind of the same thing, but like you said, like I kind of feel bad for the guy because did he really get a fair shake? No. Is he a by the numbers guy? Yes. Should by the numbers guys in most parts succeed for the most part in all situations? I think so.
In corporate America.
If you're strictly a numbers guy, shouldn't you thrive in any situation that you're put into?
So,
or not thrive, but at least be
the downside of us trying to do a bit of a post-mortem on the Chapek era now is that just like those, the elections you mentioned, the only way that we look at those type of historical events with any level of accuracy and be able to look at that and say, oh yeah, Bush's presidency without 9/11 probably would have been a single-term president, or whatever.
He barely won Florida.
Yeah, you look at that and you can see that now. But just like trying to assess a former president's legacy right after they left office, right now, I think it's going to take at least a year or two to be able to look back at the Chapek era and really have an accurate idea of what could have been, especially once more of his accomplishments back when he was head of parks are able to be brought out in discourse as a point of comparison.
That's fair, but I mean, unfortunately, the only thing that we have for his tenure was basically shitstorm after shitstorm after shitstorm.
Yeah.
And when you're the guy, there's a reason why, Bob Iger encountered stuff like this during his tenure.
Yeah, without question.
But how often was it?
Well, and the biggest piece of the puzzle that I think a lot of people forget about is was it a bad decision on Chapek's part to try to kind of pull back from streaming a little bit and disagree with how much money Bob Iger was willing to dump into streaming?
Right.
I personally disagree with that idea, but it's not unprecedented. Because, I mean, look back at Bob Iger's tenure as CEO and look at the massive changes that he made to Disney from the Michael Eisner era, where Michael Eisner is the CEO that brought us Disney Home Video. And then Iger came in and said, nope,
that's not
home video's out. We're going back to the prestige of theater. And then taking that and saying, okay, well, we've built back up the idea of going to see a Disney movie in theater as an event. Now we're going to bring that home to you. That was his legacy. But we can look at that and enjoy the results of that all we want, but we have to remember he did that by basically stomping out Michael Eisner's legacy of Disney Home Video. He technically parlayed it in once we got to streaming. He parlayed the benefits of Disney Home Video into streaming, but ultimately, for the time between the start of his tenure and the time that streaming became a thing, he stomped out Michael Eisner's legacy for quite a while.
Yeah, but
and
that was also...
That's what Chapek could have done with streaming had he been in a more favorable economy. He could have pulled back from streaming like he kept saying that he wanted to, while keeping it alive and letting it develop at a slower pace. And maybe 5 to 10 years down the line, we could have experienced something more substantial.
The only problem that I have with that argument, though, is that like the home video quality had tailed off so hard by the time Iger had taken over as CEO.
Was it ever really that high to begin with?
That's fair.
It brought the Disney experience home, so you didn't have to pay movie theater prices, which is fine. But it didn't. It never had the same level of prestige, which is why Iger disagreed with it so much.
Right.
Even though.
So
you look back, and Michael Eisner was Bob Iger's mentor.
Right.
And I mean, Bob Iger has still said in interviews recently that he deeply respects Michael Eisner and what he learned from him, which is, you can respect your mentor and disagree with the business moves that they make.
And then he used what he learned to cut his throat and take over the throne.
I can't say he was wrong in doing it.
No, well, and that's the thing that I was going to say is we got better quality Disney products out of it.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like what Iger's end game was eventually to get back to the home video model with movie quality products, which is why Disney streaming was a thing, and you had the quality of Disney Plus original content.
Yeah.
So I feel like people say that he went away from it. I think he refined it after rebuilding the Disney brand back up. But Chapek was completely and totally just like
dollar bills.
Like, well, and you say dollar bills, but at the end of the day, like,
I mean, I'd say jokingly, but not.
Well, right. But I feel like that's a bigger complete and total tonal shift and business strategy shift than when Iger took over from Eisner. Because Iger was going to rebuild the theatrical and then repurpose into the streaming.
Yeah.
Which would basically be like a second life for Disney Home Video. This was literally, forget all of that shit, we're going back to the parks.
Well, and that's kind of where the ideologies differ.
Don't care about movies, don't care about TV, don't care anything about that. We make money in the parks. That's where we're going. Yeah.
And I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. And you guys
Brad, you're always wrong.
You guys can say down in the comments if I'm misremembering this part. But if I remember correctly, Michael Eisner was the first CEO of Disney after Roy Disney. And so after Roy handing over. Interesting. Okay.
Sorry.
Okay.
Continue.
Well, there we go. Don't know why that happened. I guess the one technical glitch that we've always experienced was not actually a one in the ability for people to hear us.
It's always one.
So that's something.
Yeah.
But no. So I believe it was that Roy Disney, it went Walt, Roy, and Michael Eisner, and the idea there was all three of them, and all four when you include Iger, they were all about the Walt Disney perspective on Disney as the company, where it was all about the experience, it was about the people, it was about the characters, and no matter how, I guess the best term is cutthroat, the company became, what we as an audience experienced was always still coming back to the Disney experience.
Right.
And Chapek was deviating from the Disney experience in lieu of a more Silicon Valley or Wall Street specific approach, which was it's all about the profit margins. It's all about return on investment. It's about getting the investors as much back in their pocket as possible, which is the common trope on Wall Street today.
Right.
But it's not the Disney way.
Right.
And I mean, the Disney way will still give you a crap ton on return on investment eventually.
Right.
But you have to be willing to take a longer perspective on it. So.
Yeah, I think that's a fair point. And I think that, one of the things that I would say is, the Disney way, if you will, is that, for all of the things that you hear about Walt, and we won't get into any of that just because,
technically unsubstantiated.
Kanye West has been doing plenty of that lately.
Yeah. Although technically that part was unsubstantiated, but rumored, but never proven.
I've heard some things from people that knew the family. That we can talk about.
I'm not going to disagree. I'm just going. I don't want to piss off the mouse.
From people that we know.
I don't want to piss off the mouse.
But what I will say is that there was always that sense of wonder and that Disney,
sure,
magic, if you will.
Yeah.
And I think Bob Chapek was a guy that wanted to funnel that back into the parks and wanted to make that experience of going to the park like the grandiose Disney thing.
Which, I mean, based on how much you're spending, it kind of is.
Right, but my problem is that he then still turned around and did things that were super cost ineffective for people that were trying to go and have said experience. Now, I understand numbers guy trying to rebound from, the pandemic, when the parks being back open, we have to pay the bills and everything like that. I completely understand that. I look at stuff like that and I'm like, dude, you're a numbers guy. Like, I understand that you're a numbers guy, but at the end of the day, like, creativity is what Disney has always been about, along with the profit. So I almost feel like this was the most counterintuitive counterintuitive thing that Disney could have done.
Yeah.
Was putting just a straight numbers guy in that role and losing sight of, we still have to put out the product that brings people into the parks, that pays for the services, that buys the movies, that pays the bills.
Yeah. No, and that's
why
fair.
That's why the transition from Iger to Chapek was so weird when they announced it.
Well,
because I was like, wow, they're going hard numbers guy, following Iger, who was a businessman, of course. He's a CEO. But at the same time, like, Bob Iger did subscribe to that sense of Disney wonder and Disney magic and everything like that.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, I'm sure internally who he was as a leader was better known. But outside of the Disney environment, we didn't really know that much about Chapek originally. Right. So we didn't know how much he did or did not subscribe to the Disney philosophy. It was easy to assume that because he was coming from parks that clearly he would have been subscribing to the Disney magic idea, because that's what the parks are. I mean, aside from just the massive money grab.
And that's just it too.
That's just kind of
like he cut down on park hopping.
It's a problem that's how it ended up turning out,
right? Because
on paper he seems like he would be one of the better choices,
right?
But it turns out he was fine for just parks, but he was way too myopic for a company as large as Disney and as diversified as Disney, and he needed somebody above him to keep him in check. Because looking at how he ran the company, I'm willing to bet that while there were things that he did to the parks while he was over parks that people didn't like,
right,
I'm willing to bet a lot of his worst impulses were kept in check by Iger, and without having somebody to keep him in check like that, I think he had too many yes men and not enough people trying to hold him to the responsibility that he should have been taking on.
That's a very real possibility too, and I mean, especially when
It's
you
the
look
Lucas
at
problem.
Yeah. Ain't that the truth? But then also look at what the stocks did under him.
Tanked, went up, tanked again.
Tanked some more. So it was, like I said, it was a weird...
Coming off of Iger's run where it was almost $200 a share. And then now, with his departure, it's below 100. Like, that is...
So you're saying now's the time to buy Disney stock?
I mean, compared to its price in recent years, kind of, yeah. Because we all know it's going to go back up. It's like the price of Google stock. At some point, it's going back up. Maybe not today or tomorrow, but it's going to go back up. So, you know,
maybe that's
this is the discounted price.
Maybe that's what I asked for Christmas, is just Disney stock.
Kind of.
Yep.
But not Twitter stock.
It's true. Actually, no. With Elon running the show, I'm probably going to get a Twitter. I want the Wild West.
Is it because of the one word that's had the massive increase of usage in the last month?
Which is?
It's not M or O. We'll talk.
Okay.
And no, it's not Nazi.
No, that's just Kanye West. That's just Kanye West trying to keep that word alive.
But same neighborhood. There you
go.
There you go.
Got it.
Yeah. I think it was like a 500% increase.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Which
is saying something considering how much it was used before.
Yeah. Plus, look, at the end of the day, there is only one thing that I personally care about.
Yeah.
I have to personally thank Bob Iger. If not for Bob Iger, then every Christmas morning or Christmas Eve, I wouldn't be able to watch A Muppet's Christmas Carol on Disney Plus with the lost song When Love Is Gone added back into the movie.
Technically, that happened under Chapek.
Yeah, but it was Iger that was actually pulling the strings because it was like a 4-year process.
Fair.
So thank you, Bob.
Look, do I think the next 2 years under Bob Iger are going to be great? I think it'll be better than the last year and a half.
They're going to be a trend, well, because he's also got to pick a replacement.
Yeah, he does. I think there's going to be better than the last year and a half.
But I think with him picking a replacement, I think you're going to see a lot of what Bob Iger instituted carrying on for another easily probably half a decade to a decade.
Yeah, because I mean it's pretty clear that the replacement he's going to be choosing is going to be somebody that Bob Iger believes is going to be able to hold on to the same philosophy he's been running with and the legacy he's been building, rather than just leaving it to chance.
Right.
Because while I think a lot of people were hoping that there was going to be more of a tech giant feel to Disney now that they're in streaming and now that they have been buying so many new companies, that there'd be much more of a Google feel to them.
Which, if The Simpsons taught us anything, you don't put robots at Disney World like they did at Itchy and Scratchy Land.
I think ultimately what we're going to be left with is a Disney that's going to, at the very least, be more content focused and more narrative focused.
Oh, absolutely.
At most, I think we're going to be left with the Disney that is much more forward thinking as far as how they're utilizing technology to give us the entertainment that they're providing,
right,
whilst using that technology to hide just how much they're milking us for every penny. And
they're not going to be hiding it in about 10 days when Avatar hits theaters.
And but I think we'll be generally more okay with how much they are sucking out of our wallets at that point, because under the traditional Disney model, they're at least providing enough value that we're all willing to suffer under the same delusion that it's fine. It's fine. Yeah, I paid 150% more for this thing this year than I did last year, but you know what? It's fine because Disney.
Yeah, markup. Yeah, it's Disney. It's just Disney being Disney.
But I think that at best, that's where we're going to be looking. At worst, it's just going to be a more generally content-focused company. Either way, I think we're going to be... I don't think we're going to be dealing with another Scarlett Johansson lawsuit anytime soon. As long as they're focused on the content and keeping the talent happy, I don't think we're going to be dealing with another parks disaster, trying to price out the even the locals from being able to go. Like, I think there's going to be a lot that we'll be able to enjoy about Disney, even though realistically we're still all getting screwed by them.
Wow, keeping out all the local peasants while only the rich people get to partake, that is very, very mid-30s to mid-40s Germany of Disney. Sorry, too real?
In defense of
Kanye?
Well, you know. Anyway.
In defense of Kanye, he did make College Dropout.
On that note.
And Late Registration, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
On that note, guys, thank you.
Everything after that is crap.
Thank you so much for joining us. Hopefully, somewhere in our breakdown of what's been going on with Disney and our, I think only slightly tangenty analysis, hopefully you guys pulled out a new nugget or two that you can bring to a conversation about, you know, something that you know about Disney that everybody else didn't, because they didn't spend the hours and hours and hours reading up on the changes at Disney like we did and just compressed for you.
Yeah. Welcome.
There you go.
I mean, I don't have a family to spend time with. You do, so I guess you should be the one saying you're welcome. I just work too damn much.
If I wasn't already emotionally numb, I would say thank you.
Oh, that's fair.
But with that, guys,
should we ask what they think?
Yeah, please
or
tell.
Just to hell with them.
Yeah, tell us down in the comments.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on the return of Bob Iger? Is this the right move for Disney? Should they have given Chapek a little bit more time, or should they have just ignored them both and found somebody else to bring in? You know, fresh blood, as they call it.
Mark Zuckerberg. Elon could buy Disney.
We can only deal with one massive corporate dumpster fire at a time.
Well,
Please,
and that's
let's not make it
and
two.
The speculation is that
no,
Iger is coming back to sell off to Google.
Apple.
Or Apple, that's what it was.
Apple.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
which even Apple doesn't have buy Disney money.
I'll believe that when I see it.
I think
Disney is by Apple money.
Yeah,
but
I think the only company that could feasibly buy Disney would be Google, right?
Google or Amazon.
Amazon could cover it.
I think they could. I don't think they ever would.
No.
But yeah.
Anyway.
But guys, with that, thank you so much for joining us. As we always do at this point of the show, if you have not already done so, please do not forget to like the video and follow us over on Facebook. Like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell over on YouTube. The notification bell is particularly important because, you know, the Googles are not always good about notifying you when we go live or post a new video or whatever.
Today.
Apparently. So, yeah, just definitely do that because that'll help. And then, of course, if you want to check out more of our content but do not always have time for the videos, you can check out the audio from all of our live shows, interviews, and other fun stuff that we do over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcast, and Stitcher. Because reasons. With that, thank you all so much yet again, and until next time, as always, I'm Brad, that's Mike, We're Dallas Geek, and see ya.